The Liberty Falls Easter egg has been solved, and doing it solo is actually a lot easier than you'd imagine. The first thing we need to do, as with every game, is to open up the map. The best way to do this is down the right hand side, as this opens up all the areas we need to build the jet gun aside from the bowling alley, which will open later. The first thing we need to do once we reach the church is to interact with the machine at the side of the room. The screen will flash white and the main quest will be started. So now we've started the main quest, the first thing we need to do is build the jet gun. Now these parts can be collected in any order, but the first thing we're going to get is the gauge. And I would recommend doing this on as low a round as possible, and you'll see why in a moment. We can pick up the gauge by interacting with this hose just outside the flower shop. It'll vanish, and if you open up your inventory you'll see it in the jet gun parts. Next we need to head over to the bowling alley and open that up if you haven't already. On the furthest right bowling lane to the right on the wall you'll see a little panel. We can melee it or shoot it to pop it off, and you can interact with it again to apply the gauge. Now at this point we need to interact and hold to start pressuring the gauge. Now in this time you won't be able to shoot your gun and a load of zombies will be spawning around you, so if you have anything like monkey bombs or decoys, now would be a good time to use them, or if you have the idolized gobblegum equipped, that'd be good too. You'll need to fill the progress bar, and once you do, the gauge will pop off and you'll be able to pick it up again. Now that that's done, we'll need to get the handbrakes, and to do this we need to head over to the graveyard. And while we're there we need to kill a ton of zombies until we see the groundskeeper spawn. You'll notice him as he dresses slightly differently as a farmer, and once you kill him he'll drop tool shed keys. Don't worry if you kill him by mistake, as you'll also hear a quote to confirm who it is you've killed and the fact that the keys have dropped. Pick up the keys and head to the gardener's house, or just a left turn out of the graveyard, and in this corner just at the end of the alley we'll see a shed, and with the keys we've just picked up we can open it up by interacting with the door, and then we can pick up the handbrakes that are lying on the table to the right. Again, once you pick that up you'll see it in your inventory under the jet gun items. Last but not least we need to obtain some wires. We need to head to the bottom right of the map to the electronics shop. Once you're there we'll need to wait for a mangler to spawn in, and you'll see that the entrance to the electronics shop is gated off, but to open it up we need the mangler to shoot it with his cannon. You'll need to create some spacing between the mangler and the door, and when it shoots its cannon move out the way of the blast and let it hit the gate. Now that it's open we can head in and we'll see a few piles of rubbish on the floor. If we interact with them it'll give us salvage, a spider or the wires. Once you've got them, interact to pick them up and you'll see them in your inventory under the jet gun items as well. Once you've collected all three parts you'll get a quote telling you to head back to the motel to craft it. So we need to do just that. If you go to the second floor and over to this door, the door will burst open with zombies if you haven't already been here. Kill them, and once we head in we'll see a workbench with the jet gun on ready to craft. Now that we've got the jet gun there's three parts around the map we need to suck up. The first is pretty easy, it's a canister in the ceiling of the comic book shop. Shoot at it and it'll suck up into the jet gun. You'll also see it appear under the LTG parts in your inventory. Next, just outside the bank you'll see a white truck. We need to head up to the rooftop and jump onto it. We need to head over right to the edge, and if we turn around there'll be a window that's open with our next part in. Shoot the jet gun at it, it'll suck up, go into the gun and again into your inventory under the LTG parts. Last but not least, this one's also easy. Head over to the church, turn around and look up to the observatory and you'll see the part floating. You'll need to suck it up and it'll appear in your LTG parts. Once you've collected all three you'll get another quote saying you can craft it, and then just outside the church there's a long zip line that'll take you to the bank rooftop, which is where we need to go. And in the corner there'll be another workbench with the LTGs ready to craft. With the LTGs we'll need to harness the energy of two Dark Ether elites. So the first thing we need to do is take the zip line again and head back over to the graveyard. While you've been running around you'll have noticed a dock on the floor with a Dark Ether cloud above it, and this dock is the first place our LTG needs to go. Make sure you're down to the last few zombies of your round, and make sure you've got a good gun, as we'll need to defend the LTG from about a minute worth of zombies. You'll notice a health bar on the left, and what happens is each time a zombie reaches the LTG and enters the Dark Ether it'll lose health. So our job is to make sure that doesn't happen. And once we've defended the LTG for a minute, a Dark Ether portal will appear and in spawns our first elite. You'll need to run into the church, and from the machine we activated before you need to grab a Dark Ether canister. Once you've done that, start working some damage into the first elite, get them decently low, and you'll hear another quote saying that it's ready to harness the energy. Once you hear that, head to one of the two ether traps on the map. The closest one to the church is just at the bottom of the road. We need to drop our ether canister next to one of the little traps on the ground, bring the elite close to it, and then turn on the ether trap. Once it enters the ether field, it'll start taking damage and it'll suck its energy into the canister. Once we've done that, wait for the ether trap to deactivate, pick up the canister and head back towards the church. Once you pick up the canister you won't be able to run, so be careful of what's in your area, and there's also a 1 minute 30 countdown timer. We need to get back to the machine in the church before this timer runs down and interact with the machine to enter the canister. Wait a few seconds and then to the left a drawer will pop out with a Strauss counter in. Pick this up and then we need to head to 3 projectors around the map. The first is in between the bowling alley and the church, just next to PhD. Head up to the projector and hold out the Strauss counter, and you'll notice the colour of the screen is either green, yellow or red. And what we need to do is interact with the projector until the light on it is the opposite of the colour on the screen. So if the screen is green, the projector needs to be red and vice versa. But if it's yellow, then the light on the projector remains yellow. We need to do the same again with the second and third projector. The second is in the groundskeeper's garden, and last but not least, the third is at the drop down next to the bank rooftop. Once you've adjusted all 3 lights accordingly, the projectors will turn and project purple beams into a location in spawn. If you haven't already, we'll need to head back to the graveyard and pick up the LTG again. We then need to head back to spawn, and between there and the electronics shop you'll have noticed another dark ether cloud. Place the LTG beneath it, and again we'll need to defend the LTG for a minute. Once we've done so, our second elite will spawn in, and we need to grab an ether canister from the place that all the purple beams shot to. And we need to do the same again with this second elite. Start putting some damage into him, place the canister down at the trap, activate it, and get the energy from the elite into the canister. And once that's done, we need to pick up the canister. There'll be another 1 minute 30 countdown, and we need to take it back to the machine in the church. And once we've inserted it, we'll be ready to head straight into the boss fight. So at this point, I'd recommend progressing a few rounds, getting yourself a tier 2 pack gun. Any gobblegums you might want, I'd recommend shields up, but it's likely you probably won't even need it, it's quite easy. As for perks, I'd recommend at least having Jug, Speed Collar, Quick Revive and Stamina, and it took me till about round 20 to get all this together. I would also highly recommend getting hold of a mutant injector, and once you're equipped and feel ready to go, head back to the machine, interact with it to enter the final encounter. Another white flash will happen and the church will be locked down, and rather than a typical boss fight, this one occurs in 3 waves, all of which include super sprinter zombies. But the first round will also throw 3 manglers at you. For each round, the super sprinter zombies will infinitely spawn until you deal with the round's main targets. So in this situation, I'd recommend focusing fire on the 3 manglers. A good way to do this would be to use decoys or monkey bombs, as this will distract the super sprinters and let you focus fire on the helmets of the manglers. Once you've taken everything down, you'll be awarded with a max armor power up, and the next wave begins with more super sprinters, and after a few seconds, an elite mangler will jump out. This is where it gets a little bit difficult as your training ability is put to the test. The best way I've found of doing this is training zombies and use the jet gun to take out the horde, and then start focusing fire with your main gun on the mangler. I had to repeat this sequence about 10-15 times, but eventually I did manage to take out the mangler. Or alternatively, again, if you still have decoys or monkey bombs, you can use them to distract the zombies. Either way, once you take out the elite mangler, super sprinters will stop spawning, take them all down, and you'll be awarded with a max ammo. Once you've picked up the max ammo, the third round will start, again with super sprinters coming at you, and then you'll get an elite mangler and an elite abomination. And once they've both spawned in, this is where I'd recommend using the mutant injector. This will make you invincible and is basically a free pass at the third round. You'll need to head over to the abomination and start using your melee attack. This will do a good chunk of damage on the abomination as well as all surrounding zombies, including the elite mangler. And after about 15 seconds of meleeing, the abomination will be dead as well as all surrounding zombies. And once this happens, you'll get a final white flash and you'll be downed out of your mutant injector stim. Don't worry though, as for some reason a down is just what triggers the final cutscene. After the cutscene, you'll be asked if you want to exfil or continue playing, and if you decide to continue, depending on what round you're on, you'll receive a ton of massive rewards. For me, I was at round 20, I got a tier 1 Pack-a-Punch crystal, a ray gun, a ton of bonus points and some ammo mods. But on another attempt at round 30, I got a tier 3 crystal, a ray gun, a ton of ammo mods, legendary weapons and a ton of bonus points. So it seems that depending on the round you complete it, the rewards get better. Once you come out of that match, if you're completing it for the first time, you'll get a blueprint for the ray gun, as well as a standard calling card for completion. Now if you complete this before the guided mode comes out, you'll also get an exclusive calling card. But if you decide to continue playing, we have a video with all the side easter eggs on Liberty Falls, so go and check that out.